The Blue Jackets said that it was time to move on from Elvis Merzlikins, and Elvis Merzlikins said, "Do you want to bet?" We're going to talk about his big game on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Jay Foster. Just me today. Hayden has a work commitment, but I am here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day, every day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms. We are over on YouTube and we're on Sirius XM. I also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. We're doing a live one today. We're going to have some fun because for the first time in a very long time, watching the Blue Jackets didn't make me want to walk into the river and never come back. So, big 2 points from a admittedly probably very tired Vancouver Canucks team. They had a whole travel disaster because of the world ending in Buffalo. Didn't get to Columbus until very late last night. Had Panda Express in the airport as their post-game meal, I believe, which that's got to suck. But that doesn't take this away from the fact that the Blue Jackets went out there, had a third period comeback, which I didn't know that the Blue Jackets were allowed to do that. I thought they could only give up third period leads. I didn't know they were allowed to do a comeback, but hey, they did. Big night from the Russians, big night from Johnny Gaudreau, or very quietly as well. He had 2 assists, which is, I guess that's standard Johnny Gaudreau behavior, is to get 2 assists and no one notices. But for me, the big story has been Elvis Merzlikins. Who it's been in the news lately. He's said that he loves it in Columbus. He doesn't want to leave, but he and the team have agreed that it's time to find a new scenario. What if the new scenario is just that he's going to be the number 1 goalie again? Because I thought he was great tonight. I don't think the stats will show that he's amazing, out of this world. He had an above 900 save percentage, which you love to see. But I thought he looked good. I thought it was very possible that, the Elvis of years past, I think, probably could have crumbled under the pressure of, he hasn't played in 2 weeks. He's essentially playing for his job. And I do think that he only got to play today, because Tarasov has been really poor the last couple of games, and also because of all of this media attention negatively towards the team. They had to play him because otherwise, what were they going to do? Just continue to put him not even on the bench, put him in the press box, or, claim that he's going to be working hard off the ice, on the ice, because he knows he doesn't have to play, so we can give it all to practice, blah, 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 whatever excuse they were using. The point being, he hadn't played in 2 weeks. This was a big game for him to come into. There was a lot on the line here. Tarasov, who the Blue Jackets have said they want to develop him, they want to see if he can be that number 1 guy. And I don't know if he can, but Elvis came in and I think showed that he's a different goalie to the goalie he was last year, which is really, really great to see. And as someone who has been a big Elvis supporter over the last, basically since he arrived, through all of the horrible seasons, through the fun rookie season, I've always been a big fan of Elvis. To see him turn up in a game like this and play well and stick it to the Blue Jackets management and front office that didn't think he was good enough, or that they had a problem with his off-ice attitude, or whatever their problem was with Elvis. I think this game has really I'm glad that he got to stick it to the people who didn't believe in him, because I thought he was, like I said, I thought he was very, very good in this game, and it was well-deserved. The whole team was good, honestly, which, again, I'm not used to the forwards, the defense, and the goalie all showing up in the same game. I'm just pulling up the game sheet to see what the actual final stats were, but I'm pretty sure the Blue Jackets outshot the Canucks by like a not insignificant amount. So they had 44 shots. The Canucks had 30 shots. Blue Jackets had one power play out of 5 successful, three power penalty kills out of 4 successful. So an acceptable night for the special teams, I think. You'd want the power play to be better than 70, the penalty kill to be better than 75%, but a 20% power play seems pretty good. Would have liked to see another one, especially if they had 5 opportunities, but this was a good, well-played game. I think they bent but didn't break. They came back. They were down in third period. They were down basically the entire game. So Canucks opened the scoring. Blue Jackets equalized. Canucks scored. Blue Jackets equalized. Canucks scored again. Blue Jackets equalized again. And we're going to talk about Dmitri Voronkov's game probably in the second segment because I thought he's been quiet recently and I think he had a really, really great game. So we're going to talk about him in a bit. But just excellent goaltending from Elvis. The Blue Jackets, he needed this, and the team needed this. They had given up 6 goals the previous game, 5 goals the game before that. And they hadn't looked good in either game. The Blue Jackets looked good in this game. They looked like a real functioning team that could keep up with the Vancouver Canucks, who are, I believe, as of right now, still the number 1 team in the NHL in the standings. So great performance from all of them, but especially Elvis. Not to give less credit to the other team as well, because I think the Canucks are a really good team, you guys. And like, this isn't news, I don't think, but I haven't watched a lot of Canucks hockey because they live on the West Coast, and so their games start in the middle of the night for me. And frankly, I'm not committed enough to how much fun the Canucks are to get up at 3 a.m. and watch their games. That being said, the opening shift of this game was, I think it was legitimately like 45 to 90 seconds of the Canucks just making the Blue Jackets look like they were playing beer league. That top line is insane. It is wild. And I know that the PDO is probably going to regress hard, but like Pedersen, Besser, and Miller, plus Hughes and Hronek, like in the offseason, I semi-jokingly called Quinn Hughes for the Norris Trophy, and I'm feeling very vindicated about that as of right now. What a phenomenal player. What a great team. And it's not even like they're doing it behind, or it's not like they're even doing it behind a really, really hot goalie in Thatcher Demko, because I thought Casey DeSmith was very good tonight as well. So like, it's all clicking for the Canucks, except when it comes to the shootout, apparently. But Blue Jackets only needed 1 goal in the shootout. That was Kirill Marchenko with the classic Alexander Texier fire poker move, which I obviously, we're recording this right after the game finished, so I haven't seen any of the post-game media yet. I would love someone to ask him about his shootout move and whether he learned it from Texier, because that was just vintage 2021 Alexander Texier. It was a lot of fun to watch. We'll take a quick break. When we get back, I want to talk about some of the offense in this game, or some more of the offense in this game, because the Russians continuing to impress. So we'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, though, I've got to tell you guys about Gametime, because I don't know about you, but I hate buying tickets on that big name ticket website that we won't name. And I don't do it anymore, quite frankly, because I found Gametime and it's just so much better. I don't worry when I buy tickets. I don't have to worry about the insane fees that they add. Gametime is fast and easy. You can buy sports tickets, music tickets, comedy tickets, theater events. They've got last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, which I love. Because there's nothing worse than going to an event that you've paid, a not significant amount of money for, and you can't see anything. So I love that they show you what the view from that seat looks like, and they've got a best price guarantee. So if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime is going to credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime and download the Gametime app Create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON, one word, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And we're back here at Locked On Blue Jackets talking about, honestly, the most fun Blue Jackets game I have seen in quite a minute. I'm noticing some stuff in the chat. I will check that in the third segment. We're going to do a Q&A, so if you have questions, throw it in there. And right now, though, we're going to talk about Dmitri Voronkov, who, honestly, has continued to impress me. He's been kind of quiet recently, but I thought it was really great to see him get a couple of goals. It's not lost on me that, again, he plays at his best when there is a Russian on his line. And I like that line of, was it Voronkov, Roslovic, and Marchenko on the third line tonight? I like that line a lot. I thought that was a lot of fun. Dmitri Voronkov has really, really improved as a player since coming to Columbus. And I know everyone was very excited about him, this giant penalty-killing Russian power forward that is enormous and will screen any goalie, even the giant ones. He got to Columbus, and I was concerned about a handful of things in his game, honestly. I wasn't concerned about the language barrier necessarily, but the fact that he can't, communicate with his teammates unless there's a Russian on his line, or he can't communicate with the linesman, and that's why he keeps getting kicked out of faceoffs. But I thought he was great on faceoffs tonight, and the thing that I really noticed was he's really improved his skating. And I don't know if that's just that he's got used to the style of play over here, the narrower ice. I don't know, but his skating, which was a real weak point, I thought, when he came over to North America, has improved leaps and bounds. And he's never going to be the prettiest skater on the team or in the league or anything like that, but he looks good out there. And that's a lot of fun, honestly. And I saw a tweet earlier today, I think, when I was on my when I was at work and didn't want to be doing active work, you know how it is. I was just scrolling Twitter, and I saw someone say that, if what comes out of this season is that the Blue Jackets have realized that Fantilli, Sillinger, Voronkov is your 1C, 2, 3C, 3C, that could be the bright spot of this season. And I kind of agree with that. I think people kind of got really excited for Voronkov to come in and just kind of be one of the Bash brothers, and he's done that to a certain extent. But I think I would much rather have Voronkov as a 3C that scores, 20 goals a season, 15 goals a season, whatever it is. I think he's on 8 right now. So he's on pace for about, a 15, 16 goal season if he played the full 82 games. Put him on the third line. Give him, a grinder and a skill guy, and then just watch that line just mow through guys, because that's kind of what they did tonight. I think he and Marchenko work well together. I still really like that Russian line. I know it was kind of a bit of a disaster defensively, but I liked it a lot. That being said, the Blue Jackets might have something with that Gaudreau, Sillinger, Chinikov line. They seem to have found someone that can finish Gaudreau's passes. I thought Sillinger was great in that. I like Fantilli and Johnson as a duo, but I don't know that Johnson, Fantilli, Bemstrom line is doing what it was doing the first time it got put together. I don't know who I would put there instead of Bemstrom, but I would love to keep KJ and Fantilli together. I think that's, again, the chemistry there is building, but that top line really impressed me, and I didn't expect it to. I saw that line and was like, well, I guess, but Cole Sillinger, I believe, led the team in ice time tonight. Oh, no, he was 14 seconds behind the team leader, which was Adam Boquist, at 24:51. Sillinger had 24:35, which is, I think, the highest ice time I've seen for a forward in quite some time. Concerning that Kent Johnson is still only getting 12 or so minutes, Fantilli getting 14. I know that there was a lot of penalty kill time in there, and Neither of them kill penalties, but still, I'd like to see those guys get more ice time. But hey, they rode the hot hand. The Sillinger, Gaudreau, Chinikov line was cooking. I thought again the Marchenko, Voronkov, Roslovic line looked good. Voronkov, 2 goals, +1 on the night, 1 hit, 9 shots on goal, which led the team. He was really on one tonight, which, like I said, a lot of fun. If he keeps developing, he's going to be a really underrated player, I think, around the league. What I would love is for Voronkov to turn into the kind of player where he's not necessarily going to make teams pay on the score sheet, but he is going to make their lives difficult. And if they can get, what I would love is for him to be what we thought Josh Anderson was going to be, or what we thought Pierre-Luc Dubois could have been, or like Tom Wilson without the violence. That's what I would love to see Dmitri Voronkov turn into. But right now, if he's going to be the third center on this team, I am more than okay with that. Igor Chinikov, again, I've said it on this podcast before, he continues to impress me, and I think putting him with Gaudreau is a really smart decision because, and again, this is something I've kind of mentioned on the podcast before, is Johnny Gaudreau, last I checked, was in the top 10 in the entire league for creating offense at 5-on-5. He just couldn't find anyone to finish his passes. So that's why everyone was, losing their minds about why Johnny Gaudreau wasn't getting any points, because no one else on the team was receiving the passes and finishing them, So he's got someone on his line now that can do that in Chinikov, and that's really fun. I'd like to see that line stay together. Like I said, there's a couple of other lineup tweaks I would make, but I think the question for me at the minute is, Boone Jenner's going to be back soon. I believe they said it was 6 weeks today since he broke his jaw, which seems to have gone really fast. Patrick Laine will presumably also be back at some point. Like, where do you put those guys in the lineup? I assume that Boone Jenner will probably go back to center and will bump Voronkov to the wing. Laine probably will bump Danforth down the lineup, although Danforth was on the 4th line tonight, which honestly, love just Danforth, probably where he should be. I assume what might happen actually is he might take a Bill Bemstrom spot on the line with Fantilli. Johnson, Fantilli, Laine could be fun. I feel like we've seen little bits of that this season, but we haven't ever really seen like sustained ice time for them. I could probably find that out actually if I go to Natural Stat Trick, which is one of my favorite places to go when I am looking up slightly more than the usual stats. So let's see if I can find where Johnson, Fantilli, and Laine fits in. In fact, I can do it this way probably. Adam Fantilli has had a lot of line mates this season, which is not great. I don't actually think that they've done Fantilli with Laine and Johnson, unless they did it when they were still pretending that Laine was a winger. Yeah, no, they just haven't done that line, and I think that they should do that line. I think it would be a lot of fun, and that's my thought on that. Overall, I'm really pleased with that game. Genuinely. Like I said at the beginning, like that's the most fun that I've had at watching a Blue Jackets game, maybe all season. Actually, no, that's a lie, because there was that 9-4 Sabres game that was, I think, my favorite game of the season. But like, it's been a minute since the Blue Jackets have made me like completely happy with the performance. Would I have liked fewer goals? Sure. Would I have liked more goals from the Blue Jackets? Sure. But right now, looking at the Canucks and looking at what they've done to other teams in the league this season, and looking at what the Blue Jackets have done, like this game felt like about as good as we could ask for, honestly. A shootout is a skills competition, it's a coin flip, but hey, that's 2 points. I'm not going to knock those 2 points. I think that's kind of all I have to say about the game. So I'm going to take another quick break, and then we'll take a look at some questions in the chat if we have any. So if you haven't put your question in there, throw it in, and we'll see if we can get some of these questions answered. First, though, I've got to tell you guys about Sleeper because we're over halfway through the season right now. There's been some highs for the Blue Jackets. There's been a lot of lows, but regardless of the highs and the lows, you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper. It's the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. They're our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in their daily fantasy hockey contests. All you've got to do is take 8 player stats and you can win 100 times your money if you get all of them right. You can make entries in under a minute. It's like literally you open the app, you go boop, 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 and you're done. Like literally it's 3 clicks from opening the app to making your bet. And they've got football, they've got baseball, they've got basketball, they've got college sports on there. It's my favorite way to do daily fantasy hockey. It's really simple. All you got to do is choose whether guys like Dmitri Voronkov, for example, Elvis Merzlikins, Quinn Hughes, will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, shots, things like that, more in a given game. You heard me right, Blue Jackets fans. All you have to do is predict the outcome of 8 of those more or less stats, and you're going to win 100 times your money. Start paying attention, nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's do some Q&As and hopefully it'll be fun and not, as I have just seen in the chat, that Elvis has officially requested a trade and confirmed that during post-game media, which I don't love that, but I am unsurprised by that. So let's go with this first one from Dina Weinheimer, friend of the show. What are your thoughts on Elvis revealing that he has requested a trade? If he goes, do the Blue Jackets ride with Tarasov and Martin for the remainder of the season? My thoughts are, I don't like that, but again, I feel like I've been fairly outspoken, both in this episode and since I started the podcast, basically. I like Elvis a lot. I think he's a good goalie that has gone through a lot of really, really tough times and has struggled a lot and is his own worst critic. And I'll be sad to see him go, especially because I'm pretty sure what will happen is he'll go to another team and light it up, and the other team will love him, and it'll be another case of, wow, can you believe the Blue Jackets got rid of this guy? Because that's what happens, is the players struggle in Columbus, and then they go somewhere else, and they thrive, and then their fan base laughs at us for the next 10 years or more. If he does go to the Blue Jackets ride with Tarasov and Martin for the remainder of the season, yes. I can't see them ruining what's going on in Cleveland by calling up Jet Greaves. And picking up another goalie would just, I don't know, it feels like it'd make things even messier. You know, I do wonder if what they do is, because Elvis has got a big contract. They're going to probably have to either sweeten that contract by sending picks, prospects, whatever, or they're going to have to take a big contract back. So, like, I'm thinking about Jack Campbell up in Edmonton. I'm thinking, do they take Cal Peterson from Philadelphia, who is also on a big contract and is underperforming right now? You know, I could see them doing that. I wouldn't like that. I personally would ride with Tarasov and Martin, but I do feel like, I don't know that Tarasov is ready to be an NHL starter right now, and I think Spencer Martin is playing extremely above where his average is, and I do think regression is incoming with Spencer Martin. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I'd like to think that they'll probably roll with those two guys, but again, like I'll be really bummed to see Elvis Merzlikins go. The Cockmeister in the comments says, I was going to ask about the goaltender situation. It was a concern going into the season. It's never really disappeared all season as a concern. In the offseason, this needs nailing down. So the irony here is I have not been concerned about the goaltending on the ice since except for basically the last couple of weeks. All of the goalies were performing above where I expected them to be, especially Elvis. And I was like, I'm not worried about the goalie situation for the first time in ages. This is great. And then the Blue Jackets were like, oh, Jay's happy about something. Well, we can't have that. And decided that what they were going to do was blow it up. The offseason, something needs to happen. And I don't know what that is, because do they go out and get a goalie in free agency? Do they put all of their money in Neil Tarasov being the starter? Do they put their eggs in the Jet Greaves basket? Sergei Ivanov is a prospect that I really, really like to, and I think he has a lot of promise. He is one of the best KHL goaltenders right now on one of the worst KHL teams, and he's doing all of that as, I believe, a 19-year-old 5'11" goalie. So I like him a lot, but he, I believe, is under contract in the KHL for at least a couple more seasons. We won't be seeing him anytime soon. So this is not a thing that can be fixed in the offseason with one easy trade. I don't think. It'll be interesting to see where they go from that. Primo asks, where do I see the Blue Jackets in 5 years? That's a tough one, because I could easily see the Blue Jackets as one of the best teams in the NHL in 5 years. If all of the pieces that they have hit, if Fantilli becomes a star, if Johnson becomes a star, if Jiricek makes his way back into the lineup and stops getting healthy scratched in favor of Andrew friggin' Peak, then Matejchuk is on the way, Gavin Brindley is on the way, if they figure out the goaltending, if everything hits, the Blue Jackets could be one of the best teams in the league in 5 years. They could also do what the Ottawa Senators have kind of done and claim that the rebuild is over for, the last 3 seasons, and they're still kind of the same place in the standings. So, I'm not putting it past the Blue Jackets to completely waste all of the potential of these players, and in 5 years' time, we are exactly where we are right now, which is, we're going to be good next year. We just need one more piece. We're so close, guys. And so probably what will happen is it'll be somewhere in between those two things. But if I had to put a bet on which one of those things it was going to be, my bet would probably be on the second one, especially if Jarmo Kekalainen is still in charge. Missing piece for the Fantilli and KJ line, is it Bemstrom or is it Line? Frankly, I don't know that it's either of them. That's from JT Moto Life. I prefer Line over Bemstrom. Bemstrom's just a little too streaky for me. Ironically, I think Oliver Bjorkstrand would have been a really, really good fit for Johnson. I wanted the Johnson, Sillinger, and Bjorkstrand line a couple of seasons ago. And then they traded Bjorkstrand, and my heart broke. But of those two guys, I think Line. But at this point, I'm like, do they just put a stopgap in there until they can get Gavin Brindley? Gavin Brindley is going to take some time. He's probably going to be in the AHL next season. So do you just put a veteran there and get rid when Brindley's ready to come up? I don't know. I don't know what the missing piece is yet. But if you stick those two together and just cycle everyone else through and see who's the best fit, because it feels like those two guys are ready to. I feel like every game they are either together or separately doing something fully insane, which is a lot of fun, but also makes me wonder what could be, The Cockmeister back. What do you think of the chances of Fantilli getting Rookie of the Year in the NHL? I think they're not zero. They're lower than I would like them to be. I think Connor Bedard going out with that injury, that sucks. And I kind of talked about that a little bit on the national show, on Locked On NHL. That really sucks, because that is such an exciting player to watch, and I'm bummed that the Blackhawks got him and the Blue Jackets didn't get him. But every time a young, talented player gets injured like that, it sucks. He was having a really great season. He was so much fun to watch. I still think he comes back and wins it, though. In terms of rookie scoring, it's still, despite the fact that he's out for, 6 to 8 weeks, it's still his to lose, I think. I think Brock Faber is making some noise. I think Marco Rossi is making noise. Luke Hughes is making noise. Adam Fantilli is making noise. Fantilli is still 8 points behind Bedard, and Bedard has been out for at least a couple of weeks already. Connor Bedard is still leading in goals, assists, and points. Brock Faber is tied in for assists, actually, but there's so many good rookies that it was always going to be an uphill battle for Fantilli. I'd love to see him again. If he and Johnson can find that third person on their line and click, I think there's definitely something there. But I don't know. I don't know that he'll have the voters on his side. My guess is that Bedard still gets it despite missing, 2 months of the season, just because Bedard's a human cheat code. One last question from Elk. Well, kind of a two-part question. So the trade deadline, I believe, is March 8th. I looked this up a couple days ago. So we've got some time. Do I think Elvis will get traded? If so, where do I think? So my immediate 3 thoughts: Toronto needs a goalie, Edmonton needs a goalie, Carolina probably needs a goalie. I hate all of those options because I don't want to trade him in division. I don't think he deserves to be in Edmonton. And I think he will not be good enough in Toronto, and they will crucify him because look at what Toronto does to literally everyone that plays there, up to and including like William Nylander and Austin Matthews, who are, maybe 2 of the best Leafs that any of us alive have ever seen, So those are my like top 3 for where he'll go. I think if he has officially requested a trade, I think he will get traded, unless something happens in the next like week or so as a result of like this game that he played right now and Tarasov clearly not being ready. But I think those bridges have been burned, unfortunately. And again, just to reiterate, that sucks. I hate that. Just to finish off, who else do I think could be traded before the deadline? I think Jack Roslovic goes at the deadline. I could see Andrew Peeke getting moved, despite the fact that he's not an expiring free agent. He just literally signed a contract extension. I wouldn't be surprised to see Provorov move somewhere if they manage to retain some of his salary and another team gets him for like another season, or like a season and a half essentially, at like 2.5 million. I could see that happening. I don't think it will happen because the team really likes Provorov. Jarmo Kekalainen really likes Provorov, despite the fact that he doesn't really seem to know how defense works, despite the fact that he's a very good offensive defenseman, but I don't really rate him defensively. The Blue Jackets don't have a lot of expiring contracts, and the expiring contracts that they do have are the guys that they likely want to keep: Texier, Johnson, Marchenko, Sillinger. Bemstrom could go somewhere for like a 6th round pick. I don't know. Chinikov is an expiring RFA. Jake Bean could go somewhere potentially. But I've really liked him with Eric Branson this season. So like, I'd like to keep him around, even though, I don't know, maybe they do move Jake Bean to clear room for, someone like Denton Matejchuk to come in, or someone like David Jiricek to actually get meaningful ice time. And then Spencer Martin is technically a UFA, but I don't know what's happening there. We'll see. If Elvis goes, Spencer Martin probably doesn't. If Elvis stays, Martin probably goes. Who can say? That's kind of all I've got for today. I'm coming right up on time for this episode. But thank you for listening. Thank you for making this listen. Thank you for making this listen. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. It's not even very late here. I have no excuse. It's 9:33 p.m. here. I have no excuse. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. If you are listening to the replay, which will be going live tomorrow morning on audio and whatever, I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets on Twitter. If you want to email us comments, concerns, questions, criticisms, whatever, lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. If you have a prospect that you really, really want us to cover, you should email me that as well, because I'm going to start prospect coverage February 1st. I've got Locked On NHL Prospect on the case, so we're going to be doing a bunch of prospect stuff to see who the Blue Jackets could get. And tomorrow we'll preview whoever the next game is. I don't know who that is off the top of my head, but we'll do a game preview. And until then, make sure you stay locked on.